I think it's pretty safe to say Merry Christmas in this video. Since today's video is all about building an LED Christmas tree for your front yard. So, on that note, if you liked the video, definitely hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell notification icon for all of our newest builds. Okay, so let's talk about what supplies you actually need. So, I'd highly suggest some green spray paint, like this stuff right here. This is supposed to not peel, so that's something that you can get at like your local box store, or I'll see if I can find an Amazon link for that for you folks. These actually came from Amazon, so this is quite a bit of string lights. This one has a controller and all that, so that's actually kind of a nice thing to have. You're also going to want to have some landscape pins. Again, big box store, pretty easy to find these. These are used typically for holding down mats to keep weeds out and stuff, but in this case we're going to be using it to place our Christmas lights. Okay, and then the last thing we want to do is we want to have the star for the top or some sort of decoration like that. I'll put a link to the Amazon ad that we found this one on. This one's pretty good. On top of that, again, more big box store stuff. Got ourselves a 1-inch PVC pipe. And then we have a 1-inch dowel. So that'll all make sense here in just a little bit. Basically, the dowel is going to be used to go and put this into the ground. So this way this will stay in the ground so we can use the full length of it. And then it'll also be used to hold the star up. And we'll explain how that all kind of comes together as we're going along. But yeah, that's your basic supplies. So on that note, let's get to the build. All right, so when we want to go and build one of these things, we need to have this and this. So basically what the idea is that we're going to go ahead and push this in here. Then we're going to go ahead and create a spike at the end. And then we'll kind of do the same thing on the other side. We'll use the other part of this, put a spike on the other side. And then the one spike will allow us to go into the ground. The other spike will allow us to mount this little guy. So that's basically pretty much how that works. So let's go ahead and make some spikes, shall we? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and cut down our dowel. We want to make sure that our dowel is all squared up. So this way it's roughly about the length we want, maybe a little bit longer, before we go and start actually doing our cutting activities. Now, if you're going to be making the point with like a jigsaw, then you might want to leave the dowel at the full size. But this is going to be done on a bandsaw, so we're going to go for a little bit smaller because we have more control that way. So you can do this either way, so don't feel bad if you don't have the fancy bandsaw, okay? Cool. Let's do this. All right, cool. So now we have 3 pieces ready to go. So these 2 will be the spikes in our case. And this one will be kind of our, more or less like a makeshift story stick. So we'll use this for aligning where all the lights go, which makes this ridiculously easy. So there you go. All right, let's get over to the bandsaw and get these spikes ready. It's like it's Halloween or something. It's kind of weird. All right, anyway, let's do this. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and cut the spike for the bottom of the tree. Okay, so we have our basic shape, so now we can just go ahead and run this over to the sander. This does not have to be perfect, it goes into the ground, no one will see this. But we're going to run this over the sander here and get this all refined so it's a nice, good, hardy spike. Okay, cool. So after a little bit of sanding there, I mean, you could do this without necessarily having this, but I recommend it. Um, now we've got a nice strong point. This thing will definitely go into the ground, no doubt about that. And so on to our next part. Okay, so before we get too carried away with assembling stuff, first thing we want to do is make sure that we mark down about twice as deep as where our ending is for our topper, so that's going to be right there. So I went and I added in about another space in here, so this way we can go and cut down to that line. And I centered up the bandsaw so it's going to hit the center, and then I can just kind of just turn it and repeat down to that line. Again, you can do this with a jigsaw. This is very better with a bandsaw just for accuracy reasons, but then again, keep in mind, most people are never going to see the top really in that sense, so it's not that big of a deal. I'm only going to do so many of these because I also still want to be able to go and attach the topper in an easy way. So we'll show you how that goes here in a bit. But let's go ahead and get started on this part. Made a little boo-boo on this side, but overall, pretty consistent all the way around. The little bit of inconsistency is actually good in some cases because then we don't have necessarily always coming from the same direction, so we can play with light effects. So I'll probably put this one towards the back because no one will really see that, but ultimately, yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah. All right, so as you can see, this is why we cut the slots a little bit larger, just so this way we have the ability to slide the cable in nice and comfortable, and it makes it good for also deconstruction later on when the season's over. And for those of you that are wondering about this little topper, basically what happens is it winds up going in here, but since the cable's in the way, it won't be able to go all the way down. Now, obviously when we get done putting this together, this will go all the way in, but you kind of get the general idea. This will be spray painted green along with the pole. So both will be green, so it'll kind of hide any of the little imperfections that we may have created in there, and you probably won't really notice those. So that's how that works. So anyway, let's get into getting this thing put together. This next part you could probably do two different ways in all reality. So as far as the spike goes, that's going to go into here, but the problem is it's a 1-inch spike, slides inside that 1-inch pole real easy, right? Well, that's not going to work. So what we're going to need to do is we need to find a way to attach this. So we can attach this a few different ways. We can try to heat shrink the tube and try to get it so it'll like form fit on there. That might work. Or the other option we can do is go and put screws in here and try to do it that way. Or you could use epoxy. It depends on what your tastes are. For the simplicity of this project, I'm going to go with screws on the bottom because honestly I don't think anyone's going to notice them because we're going to spray them green. But that's basically how that's going to wind up working in our project. But there, like I said, there are 3 different options you could do to go and secure this. This one's probably the easiest. It's also great too if the spike ever goes bad, you're not permanently stuck with this and then having to build another one of these things. So there you go. Okay, so on this part here, I went ahead and made a couple of lines. So one of the lines was made right to here to tell me where this ends. And then of course on here, this has a line here as well to tell me how deep it should go. So when we go and put that in, then this lines up right here. So that way it lines up with the end of the pipe, which means that it's sitting right about here. Since I can't see it through the pipe, it's generally the easiest way to do this. So first thing I'm going to do is actually go and drill holes through here before I go and actually put this in, and then we'll work on this problem. So it's pretty simple. I just put a center line down here. It's approximately center. It's not. Again, no one's probably ever going to notice, so don't worry too much. That should give us a pretty good amount of strength there between these. Now I flip it over, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do one here and one here. So this way it has alternating force on both sides. And I might throw a couple more in, but we'll see how that goes. So first off, let's get our little guy in here. All right, we're all lined up. So now I'm going to go ahead and attack it for the first time. The screw I'm using is self-tapping. It's actually a deck screw. So it doesn't actually need to have a hole drilled technically ahead of time, but I drilled one ahead of time anyway. As you can see, it didn't have any problem with that. So that's in there pretty good just on its own. But like I said, we're going to make sure that it's structurally sound. So I'm going to go ahead and do a full 180. So that should be about dead bottom there. Now I'm just going to draw a little line here to let me know where I'm supposed to go on this one, which is going to be right here and right here. Not too hard, just boom, boom. I'll just come in here real quick and right on those lines, just go and drill some holes. Actually, I think we're good. Let's just go with that, because we don't want these being too obvious, so there we go. Now we've got our spike installed, so we're ready to go. Let's go paint this before one of our neighbors thinks that we've decided to go spear fishing in their neighborhood, which is kind of weird. So I live in a desert. That would be strange. But yeah, anyway, let's go paint this thing. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and give it a coat of spray paint. I'll probably give it another coat once we get it out there and actually installed, but for right now I'm gonna go ahead and just give it a nice, at least preliminary coat of paint, so that way we can have that kind of nice Christmas tree look. Don't forget to shake your can. Okay, so I'm using that little story stick that we created earlier. I put a little notch on the end of it, and I basically just put the light down in the story stick and then run it through the notches at the top of the pole that we showed earlier. Then over here, what we're doing is I'm using those little landscape pins and tapping those in at the end of the story stick. And this allows us to go and create a nice round Christmas light display without having to actually go through all the trouble of figuring out how to build the hoop and all that you'll sometimes see in some of the other videos. So this does take, in theory, a little bit longer, but at the same time, the cleanup is pretty easy. You pull out the pins and you put away the tree for the end of the year. And it looks absolutely fantastic, especially if you built it with those boxes that we had in our video we made a few years ago. Speaking of that, here is what it looks like with the boxes and the Christmas tree all put together, with the star on top, the plug in there just like we talked about earlier in the video, the whole 9 yards. So pretty awesome little display, and we'll go ahead and show you a little bit more of like what it looks like when it's matched up with the house. That is pretty spectacular, isn't it? Just beautiful display when it's all put together, isn't it? So anyway, if you guys like the video, definitely hit that like button. Otherwise, don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to subscribe to our channel. And definitely don't forget to hit that bell notification icon for all of our newest videos. In the meantime, thanks again for watching us here on Woodwork Therapy. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and stay safe in the shop.